I died because of my own daughter. Since she was little, Grace treated me less like a mother and more like a rival, competing for her father's attention. If Julian touched me, she screamed. If he defended me, she threatened to jump off the roof. When my husband cheated, I still fought for custody. I thought I was protecting my daughter from a cruel stepmother. I was wrong. The day the court favored me, Grace poured sulfuric acid over my face and locked me inside the room.
Dad belongs to me.
And I woke up, back to the day of the divorce. This time when she flings herself into my husband's arms and screams that she'd rather die than live with me, I don't cry. I don't beg. Instead, I file for the divorce and smile. I will win.
Let's see if he still loves you without that pretty face.
You will never take Dad from me again!
Agonizing pain ripped through my body. Sulfuric acid poured over my head, melting my scalp instantly. White smoke rose into the air with the horrifying hiss of flesh burning alive.
Please, somebody help me!
The one who threw the acid was my daughter, Grace.
You brought this on yourself. Now that pretty face is gone. You can stop throwing yourself at men behind Dad's back.
Then she locked the bedroom door and left me there, burning, suffocating, dying alone. I snapped awake with a violent shudder, drenched in cold sweat. I frantically touched my face, smooth, unbroken, no burns, no decay. I looked up. My husband Julian stood across from me, frowning, sliding divorce papers across the table with barely concealed impatience.
You were the one screaming about keeping custody of Grace. So why are you suddenly backing off?
I stared at him, then at the unsigned papers on the table, and just like that, everything came rushing back. Finally, I realized I'd been reborn, back to the very day I filed for divorce. The front door flew open. Grace stormed in, her face already twisting into that familiar sneer.
Isabella, you're just jealous that Dad loves me more. Think I'm going anywhere with you? Dream.
She pressed herself into Julian's arms and tilted her chin up, smug and triumphant.
Nobody's tearing me and Dad apart. I'm gonna be Daddy's little girl forever.
Watching her cling to him like that, possessive and almost obsessive, I felt a chill settle deep in my bones. It wasn't normal. I'd noticed it since she was small. Her attachment to Julian went far beyond a daughter's love. It was an emotional fixation, unhealthy, consuming, almost as if she believed he belonged to her. In my last life, Julian had cheated, and I, terrified of what a stepmother might do to Grace, gave up almost everything I had just to keep custody of her. What I got in return was her testimony on the stand. Every word aimed to destroy me.
Your Honor, my mother is a monster. She's abused me for years. She's jealous of the bond I have with my father. Please don't make me go with her.
I had no way to defend myself, just the cold stares and the whispers. But this time, watching the two of them together, perfectly in sync, feeding off each other, all I felt was nausea. A deep, bone-cold disgust. I reached for the pen, met Julian's stunned gaze, and smiled. Clean break. You keep the kid. I keep the assets. And after today, we're strangers. She's out of my life for good. My decisiveness caught them both off guard. Neither Julian nor Grace saw that coming. Grace never even tried to hide how much she hated me, not even when she was little. In my last life, she burst into our bedroom the moment Julian and I were together, physically forcing her way between us every single time. When she was 8, Julian cut a piece of his steak and put it on my plate. She lost it completely, sprinted straight up to the rooftop terrace, and stood at the edge.
Either Dad backs off from Isabella right now, or I jump!
She'd even station herself behind me while I did my makeup.
Doesn't matter how much you paint yourself up. You'll never be prettier than me. Stop embarrassing yourself in front of Dad.
And Julian just gave that calm, polished smile of his and let it go every time.
She's just a little too attached to me. Why are you getting worked up over something a kid said?
That indulgence was what fed the monster, year after year. He let it grow until her obsession with him stopped resembling anything like a daughter's love at all. Grace clicked across the floor toward me in her heels, patience already gone.
Are you signing or not? Stop wasting our time.
I picked up the pen and signed without hesitating. You want to stay with your father that badly? Fine. I respect that. But from here on out, we're done. All of us. They both went still, clearly not the reaction they'd expected. I reached for the agreement. Grace snatched it out of my hands.
Hold on. Why does she get hundreds of thousands in cash and the house? She's a divorced nobody. She doesn't deserve a single cent of Dad's money.
She latched onto Julian's arm, turning on the full performance.
Dad, you promised all that money was for my clothes and bags. Don't you dare give it to this old hag.
She had no idea. Julian had been cheating on me for months. No idea this settlement was the minimum I was even entitled to. Julian guilt written all over his face. Put on the role of the generous, soft-hearted father.
Grace, sweetheart, I'm just being kind to your mom. Don't overthink it, okay?
I leaned back in my chair and laughed. Short, dry, humorless. What a performance. Devoted father, magnanimous, ex-husband. Let's see how long that lasts, Julian. Once you've moved your little intern girlfriend, Vivian, and Grace finally figures out what you've been up to. I didn't say another word. I picked up the signed agreement, stood up, and walked out. This marriage was a bad joke that had gone on long enough. This time, I was the one ending it. Grace was convinced she'd won. She was practically vibrating with it. She ran into the living room, stretched up on her toes, and tore our wedding photo off the wall, hurled it face down onto the floor. Then she went to work on it with her heel, grinding it into the tile over and over, right on top of my face in the photo.
One! He's mine! Dad is all mine!
I watched her, spinning around the room, half delirious, like she just conquered something. I didn't feel angry, not even close. Mostly I just felt sorry for her and a little embarrassed on her behalf. She thinks she has won Julian all to herself. She has no idea there is already someone else waiting in the wings. Someone barely older than she is. I turned and went to pack up the guest room. It had been Julian's idea, actually. Or rather, his anxiety talking. He was worried I'd change my mind after filing. So we'd agreed I'd stay in the spare room during the waiting period while I found somewhere new to live. The moment Grace realized I was only moving a few things down the hall and not hauling my luggage out the front door, she snapped. She shoved past me into the guest room, grabbed the clothes I just folded, and pitched them straight into the trash.
Why aren't you packing your suitcase? You're still trying to stick around? Get out! Dad, make her leave!
Julian, thoroughly exhausted, tried to be the voice of reason.
Grace, it's just temporary until the paperwork comes through. She's staying a few weeks, that's all.
Grace wasn't hearing it. Her eyes had gone red at the edges.
I know exactly what she's doing. She's trying to worm her way back in, play hard to get so you'll chase after her. Don't fall for it, Dad.
I stood in the doorway and looked at her. This girl I'd carried for 9 months, raised with my own hands. The hatred coming off her was rawer than I remembered. More vicious. Like she wasn't even trying to disguise it anymore. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I could still feel the acid burning. I took a slow breath. Then I walked toward her and raised my hand. Slap. The slap cut through everything. Grace's screaming stopped dead. She stood frozen, staring at me, like she didn't recognize my face. She didn't, because this version of me, cold, unhesitating, completely done, was one she'd never seen before. The force of it knocked her sideways. She crumpled to the floor, one hand flying up to cover her cheek, whole body gone still with shock. She'd grown up as my everything. No matter what she did, no matter how cruel she got, I had never once raised my voice at her. Let alone my hand. I'd swallowed it all. Every insult, every tantrum, every knife she twisted. Because she was my daughter, and I kept believing that love would eventually get through to her. She had absolutely no idea I had it in me. The shock lasted about 3 seconds, and she collapsed into sobs, scrambling across the floor on her hands and knees and throwing herself into Julian's arms, shaking like a leaf.
Dad, did you see that? She hit me! There it is, her true colors, finally! She's always been jealous of us. Every time you left the house, she'd take it out on me, and now look! Are you just gonna stand there?
I watched her perform, the trembling lip, the wide, wounded eyes, the whole helpless victim routine. She'd been running this play since she was 4 years old, cooking up stories, dripping poison in Julian's ear, painting me as some volatile, abusive woman who couldn't control herself. And Julian, every single time, believed her without question. He'd look at me with that long, disappointed stare.
Isabella, she's just a child. Sweet, honest. Why would she lie at something like this? If she's saying these things, maybe you should ask yourself what you're doing wrong.
In my last life, I'd let it go on for years. I couldn't bring myself to accept that my own daughter genuinely hated me that much. I kept thinking if I was just patient enough, soft enough, gave her enough love, one day she'd come around. She didn't come around. It just got worse. By the time I finally understood what she really was, it was too late. She was 16 when she poured the acid on me. 16, and she did it without faltering. Also, she could have Julian to herself. I looked at her now, sobbing prettily against his chest, and felt nothing but contempt. Grace, you're 16, a little old for this kind of act, don't you think? It's embarrassing, honestly. Save your energy. Instead of coming after me, maybe keep a closer eye on what your dad's been getting up to. Julian's face went white. He lunged at me, clamping a hand over my lips, and shoved me bodily down the hallway, away from Grace. He was terrified I'd say the name, Vivian. Julian dragged me all the way to the far corner of the balcony before he let go, his grip leaving marks on my arm. He shot a nervous glance back toward the living room, then turned on me, voice low and seething.
What is wrong with you? The agreement was to keep this quiet. It's right there in the terms.
A vein was pulsing at his temple.
Vivian doesn't move in until next month. You blow this up now, Grace is going to fall apart. Is that what you want?
Vivian, 20 years younger than Julian, 5 years older than his own daughter. A college intern he'd been keeping on the side for a year. And here he was, playing the concerned father. I felt my stomach turn. I shook his hand off me.
Fall apart? Since when do you care? You've been sleeping with a girl barely older than your daughter for the past year. Did you think about Grace then?
In my last life, I'd shown up at his office one afternoon unannounced. His secretary fumbled through some excuse about him being out. I pushed past her anyway and opened the door to the back room. And there he was, tangled up with that girl, neither of them remotely decent. And the texts I found on his phone later. Explicit, shameless, like he hadn't even tried to hide it. I'd begged back then, cried, bent myself in half trying to keep the family together. And what I got for it was the two of them, father and daughter, turning on me in tandem. But that was then. I looked at this panicked, unraveling man in front of me and felt nothing but a cold, quiet disdain. I brushed off my sleeve like the conversation had left something on me.
Relax. I have zero interest in your mess. Do whatever you want, both of you.
Grace will find out the truth eventually. I'll be watching from a comfortable distance when she does. I turned to head back inside. I'd underestimated her. While Julian and I had been out on that balcony, Grace had slipped out the front door. In the few minutes we'd been arguing, she'd gone door to door through the entire neighborhood, knocking on every house on the block.
Everyone listen! My mom, Isabella, has been running around behind my dad's back, fooling around with other men! Dad finally couldn't take it anymore! That's why they're divorcing! But now, get this, she won't even leave! Divorced! And still camped out in our house, guilt-tricking Dad for money every single day! And you all thought she was such a perfect wife!
Grace's performance drew a crowd fast. Within minutes, half the neighborhood had materialized at our front gate. All those polished, pleasant-faced neighbors who'd smiled at me for years at HOA meetings and holiday parties. Now they stood in a cluster, peering through the courtyard, whispering behind their hands.
I never would have guessed. She always seems so put together. Guess you never really know.
When your own daughter can't stand you, that says everything. Absolutely shameless.
To every single one of them, I was the villain of the story. The cheating wife, the woman her husband finally got tired of, the mother her own child despised. My life apparently was a disaster. In my last life, being a stay-at-home wife meant I was home whenever anyone came to the door. Plumbers, delivery drivers, repairmen. Normal, unremarkable interactions. But every time a man set foot in the house, Grace would materialize out of nowhere with that poisonous smirk.
Oh, Isabella, flirting with the help again? Can't go a single day without male attention, can you? Grandma always said you were just after Dad's money while sleeping around on the side. Looks like she was right.
That kind of thing, dripping constantly into the ears of everyone around me, had worn me down to nothing in my last life. I couldn't even exist normally without being treated like a suspect in my own home. Now Julian, suddenly very aware of the audience he'd attracted, stepped forward with his hands up, smooth damage, control smile back in place.
This is just a misunderstanding. You know how kids can be. Nothing to worry about, truly. Thank you all, but this is a private family matter.
Grace rounded on him instantly.
Dad, why are you defending her? I'm on your side! Isabella, you hear that? You need to get out of this house. You need to get out of this house. I will never let you stay!
His voice came out sharp and final.
Enough! Go to your room, now!
Grace's eyes filled with tears, not grief, but fury barely dressed up as hurt. And of course, none of it landed on Julian.
This is all Isabella's fault. Everything was fine before her. Dad has never once spoken to me like that. Never! Not until she came along!
I watched her and felt the last trace of pity evaporate. Not this time. I pulled out my phone, opened the messages, and held the screen up. Julian's texts with Vivian, hotel booking confirmations, photos, all of it, right there for the crowd to see.
For anyone who's curious about the real reason for his divorce, Julian's been cheating. That's it. That's the whole story. And if anyone wants to keep spreading Grace's little version of events, go right ahead. My lawyer's number is very easy to find.
The murmuring hit like a wave. Julian lunged for the phone, too late. I was already moving, phone in my pocket, bag over my shoulder, walking straight out the front gate without looking back. I was done with this house, done with everything rotting inside it. Then Julian came running after me.
Isabella! Stop right there! Don't you dare walk away!
He didn't even care about the neighbors anymore. He closed the distance in 3 strides and grabbed my bag strap with both hands, knuckles white. The composed, put-together man from 5 minutes ago was gone. His face had gone gray, a vein standing out sharply at his temple.
Are you insane? You think this is funny? You want to destroy me? What if you change your mind and pull the filing after you leave? Then what? Get back inside, now! Tell everyone those screenshots were fake! I mean it!
Around us, the neighbors hadn't budged. A few had their phones up, openly recording. Someone let out a low whistle.
Huh. Julian always seems so solid. Didn't see that coming.
Makes a lot more sense now why she's divorcing him.
Reputation was everything to Julian. The devoted husband, the successful professional. the man who had it all together. That was the identity he'd spent years carefully building and maintaining. Well, right now, in front of half the neighborhood, it was falling apart in real time. He dropped his voice, but the desperation bled through anyway.
Can you just calm down for 1 second? This isn't good for either of us, Isabella. You used to care about keeping things dignified. What happened to that?
I almost laughed out loud. Dignified. In my last life, dignity was the leash he'd used to keep me in line. Every time I found out something new, another lie, another late night, another woman, I'd swallowed it. Kept the house running, kept smiling at dinner parties, kept the whole pretty fiction alive because he needed me to. I'd known about Vivian for months before I said anything, and I'd stayed quiet because of dignity. He didn't want me back. He wanted a lid on this before it cost him anything. I jerked my bag out of his grip. Save it. I see exactly what this is. For what it's worth, Julian, nobody in this situation wants that divorce certificate more than I do. I've been counting the days. Because every second I'm still legally connected to you and your daughter makes my skin crawl. I walked out through the gate and didn't look back. The noise of the house, the arguing, the spectacle, all of it fell away behind me like something I was finally permanently done with. I checked into a hotel an hour later. My phone buzzed before I'd even set my bag down. It was Grace.
Don't flatter yourself. Dad isn't coming after you. That little tragic ends-it routine of yours won't change anything. I've got my eye on you. Your stuff's already been dealt with. Don't come crawling back.
Then a video came through. In the video, she'd gathered every photo of me left in the house. Albums, framed prints, everything. And piled them in front of the fireplace. Then she lit them. She was grinning as she did it. Bright-eyed, almost giddy, holding the lighter like it was a ceremony. The flames took hold instantly, curling up over my face in every photo. And Grace stood there watching with a look of pure, unhinged satisfaction. When the last one had burned down to ash, she ground it under her heel. In my last life, a video like that would have broken me. This time, I watched it to the end, set my phone down, and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Last time around, I'd humiliated myself fighting for custody. I was willing to walk away with nothing, no money, no assets, just Grace. Because I couldn't bear the thought of losing her. It had hollowed me out completely, and it ended with acid poured over my head by the same girl I'd sacrificed everything to keep. Not this time. I blocked her number without blinking. Just like that, the noise was gone. In my last life, my entire world had been 4 walls, the kitchen, and Grace's endless contempt. I'd let myself go completely, exhausted, invisible, going through the motions of a life that didn't feel like mine anymore. This time, the first thing I did after the settlement cleared was book the best gym membership in the city and sign up for a year of premium skincare treatments. I dug out the professional books I hadn't touched in years and started sending out job applications by the dozen. Every morning I ran until I was drenched. Every few weeks I sat in a treatment chair and watched the dullness slowly leave my back, replaced by something sharper, healthier, more alive, and to properly celebrate cutting that toxic pair out of my life for good. I rented out a private room at the best bar downtown and threw myself a divorce party. I wore a red slip dress. I never would have had the nerve to try before. I drank good wine, met interesting people, and somewhere in the middle of all of it, I met a man named Ethan, warm, attentive, the kind of person who made you feel like the most interesting woman in the room. The Isabella, who had died in that acid nightmare, was gone for good. The one standing in her place was single, financially set, and completely transformed. When the waiting period ended and the court summoned us to collect the final divorce decree, Julian stared at me outside the courthouse like he was seeing a stranger. Grace took one look and went straight for the jugular.
Oh, please, you got work done? What, you think a new face is going to make Dad want you back? Give it up. He's mine.
I didn't even glance at her, collected my paperwork and left. A few weeks later, I bought a villa outright, full payment, no mortgage, and moved in immediately. That first night, lying in the middle of a bed that was entirely, completely mine, I thought, this is what it feels like to have a future. It lasted about 4 days. Then, just past midnight, someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find 2 police officers on my doorstep. The older officer held up his badge, brow furrowed, voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone who'd already made up his mind.
Mrs. Isabella?
Your daughter Grace filed a report this evening.
She says you've been neglecting your parental duties and lot out of the house in the middle of the night. You want to explain that?
I stared at him. Officer, there's been a mistake. Julian and I are divorced. He has full custody. I have no legal obligation to Grace whatsoever, and I certainly didn't lock her out of anywhere. I don't even live with him anymore. I didn't get to finish. A small figure shoved between the 2 officers and pushed past them into the doorway. Grace, hair tangled, clothes half disheveled, eyes burning with that particular brand of obsessive, unhinged fury. I knew too well. She didn't acknowledge the officers.
Drop the innocent act, Isabella! Is Julian here? He didn't come home tonight and he's not picking up! You hid him here, didn't you? I knew it! Hand him over right now!
I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom and looked at what she'd done to it. Muddy footprints on the new carpet, shattered ceramic across the floor. 2 lifetimes of swallowed rage hit me at once. I crossed the room, reached out, and grabbed a fistful of her hair.
Ow! Let go! That hurts!
Are they okay?
She thrashed and clawed, but I didn't loosen my grip by a fraction.
You're 30s, officer.
I dragged her, stumbling, barely keeping her feet, all the way back through the bedroom, down the hallway, across the living room, to the front door. Then I shoved her out with everything I had.
Grace, not everyone in the world is as obsessed with Julian as you are. He is not here. And if you ever set foot in my house again, I won't bother walking you to the door!
Grace stumbled into the office, caught herself, and went very still for just a moment. She hadn't expected me to actually do it. Then she looked up at the officers beside her, and like a switch had been flipped, her eyes filled with tears.
See? This is what she does to me. This is what she's always done.
Big, welling, perfectly timed.
She takes everything out on me whenever she feels like it, please. You have to do something.
Mom, may I come in?
Okay.
Mrs. Isabella, I don't care what the situation is between you and your ex-husband. She is 16 years old. Laying hands on your own child, that's not something I can overlook.
Divorced or not, you're still her mother. This is cold-blooded.
Grace peered at me from behind the officer's shoulder with a small, satisfied smile. Just for a second, just long enough for me to see it. I walked to the entryway cabinet, pulled out my copy of the divorce agreement, and dropped it on the table in front of them.
Let's deal in facts, officers. Julian has full legal custody and sole guardianship of Grace. As of our divorce, I have 0 parental or legal obligation to her. None. That's in black and white, right there.
The 2 officers exchanged a glance. They looked down at the paperwork. The shift in their posture was subtle but visible. Grace, realizing she was losing the room, escalated immediately, dropping to the floor, screaming the full performance.
She's lying!
Dispatch.
Who else would make Dad disappear for a whole night? She's got her claws in him. She never stopped. You shameless, disgusting...
I looked at her writhing on my living room floor and felt nothing except a bone-deep readiness for this to be over. I knew exactly where Julian was, but there was no point saying it. Grace would never believe me. She'd just find a new way to make it my fault. So I swallowed. I picked up my phone, wrote a number and an address on a slip of paper.